What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday afternoon edition of the Eric Jr. podcast. I am your interim host for the time being, Mr. Jacob Klein. I'm joined here by Mr. Chris Lynch, and we are here to give you a little give-and-go action with, not so many gives and way too much time allowed on the go. I am prepared to dive into it. We've got our NFL draft preview. We've got a little Sixers roundup panic meter discussion, and as always, a disappointing father-son talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. Mr. Lynch, how are you?
I am fantastic. Excited to be here with you. You know, the gruesome twosome is back. We're ready. We're excited to be doing this matinee Eric Jr. podcast. It's been a tough week for the Sixers. I mean, confidence was sky high last week after the Clippers win. I mean, we were rolling it. We were in first place. Everything was looking great. And disaster strikes, 4 straight losses, starters in and out of the lineup. What was your big takeaways of this week?
It's got to be the lack of Ben Simmons.
Yes,
and
very notable. Yes,
kind of just thinking this year, okay, we've got some guard play that is passable enough, and maybe they can do some regular guard things.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really get to see it. The guy that you're relying on still needs some time to get acclimated with George Hill.
Yeah.
I will say there were some emergent concerns that I had with this 4-game sample, albeit with a disorganized and not full roster.
Yeah.
So,
and also a tough schedule wise, as Doc noted after the first Bucks loss. It was a really brutal schedule to be put in. The Phoenix game, and then you fly out to Milwaukee. They've had 3 days rest. You're just getting in there, and then a quick turnaround, even though you get a day off for the Saturday afternoon game, which are always tough. The schedule not kind to the Sixers, and the health situation not kind as well. You can't dismiss those factors in talking about this week as well. But yeah, go ahead. What were your in-game thoughts?
Yeah, just quickly what you said about the health. It's all about timing. This season, more than any other season, whether it be contact tracing, whether it be injuries, whether it be rest. It does seem this is inopportune timing for several of those components in a very disorganized and dysfunctional season. So with that being said, some other guys got some playing time, some guys that you hope can crack the playoff rotation and play a role this year in a finals run. In terms of my worries, first thing that jumps out, got to be said, Shake Milton.
Yeah, tough stretch.
Tough stretch, but more so is making plays that it almost looks like it's the type of thing that a rusty player does, that like an Anthony Tolliver, who has not looked very good, but has looked okay. And I will defend. I'm on the Anthony Tolliver bandwagon, by the way. I'm gonna, if he gets signed for the rest of the year, I'm all in on him and Mike Scott. Those are my guys. But
okay,
Shake Milton's handle in traffic, Shake Milton's decision making with open space. He continues to hit that mid-range shot, which can kind of stop the bleeding when the other team is going on a run, which is nice. But outside of that, Cream, I am really concerned about his viability going into the playoffs. That he is the single most important player for which these next 10 games, however many games we have left,
12,
are really going to be the most important. We need to see him bounce back in a big way.
Absolutely. And I think he's definitely become over-reliant on that mid-range game. He's settling too much. He's been scarred too many times getting stuffed at the rim, and his three-point shot pretty much since the first or second month of the season has been really erratic. You really don't know where it's going to come from on any given night. So he's just kind of fell in love with that mid-range, and as you know, that doesn't really do anything to it can stop the bleeding. It's a good stopgap kind of thing. It's nice that he has it, but when he becomes over reliant on it, it doesn't punish the defense in any way. It doesn't really it's not very aggressive moving. It doesn't make the defense react. It doesn't open up things for himself or other players. So when he becomes so reliant on it, and it really is a symptom of just a clogged offense, which has been the case for the last 4 games. Obviously, when you don't have your lead guard in Ben Simmons, things get mucked up a little bit, right? Like you're gonna be over reliant on guys who, that's not their main strength. And we've seen now, I think, for the second half of the year, it's pretty clear that at least right now, Shake's best attributes don't involve him having the ball a ton. I think it would be wise for Doc once Ben gets back, once he's ready to get going, and now that you have George Hill, I think it would be smart to move Shake into a little bit more secondary, tertiary role, because he's just not, when he has the ball, he kind of just gets this tunnel vision, and he's not making the right plays right now. He's driving into traffic with nowhere to go. Like he's settling for mid ranges. Like there's just not a lot of creation there. And he's, we talked about him at the beginning of the year as like a potential 6-man. Like, is he going to close games? And now you're wondering, well, is he going to crack 10 minutes in a playoff game? Is Doc going to leave him out there? One thing we do know is Doc does think that Shake Milton is the best basketball player that's ever lived. So that may color his playoff rotations a little bit, but I think it's fair to say that he's definitely struggling right now, and it's going to be paramount over this last 12 games to find a role that he is more comfortable in and a little bit more get a little more out of him, I think.
Yeah, so we'll go on to the second concern in just a moment, but closing out with Shake, he still throws his body around, and the skill of getting to the line is something that you get from some of the other ball carriers and guys like Ben Simmons and even Maxey to a degree. So that skill set that remains, even with this turbulent portion of his Sixers season, that does not help in a tangible way that you're going to need with the playoffs, especially if the foul calls for the ticky-tack stuff might not be as apparent. So closing out with Shake, what's your panic meter? 1 to 10? 10 obviously is he's out of the playoffs.
Right. I think it's got to be like a 7. We've seen him go through stretches in his admittedly short Sixers career where he has it, and then obviously we've seen stretches where he kind of looks a little lost. I'm hoping that this is just a stretch and he can kind of break out of it, but it does seem like he's hitting a bit of a wall. And you hope that it might just be a case where you need to simplify his role a little bit and kind of manage him a little bit more. Whereas earlier in the season, you really felt like you can kind of just roll the ball out and let him kind of do his thing, because he was such an energizer that first month or two of the season. As the first guy off the bench, as the ball handler. Of those bench mob units that were really effective earlier and have since really struggled. And his, it's no surprise that his struggles have kind of coincided with that, right? Like he is clearly a big factor when you have those bench units. If he's not going, they're going to struggle to create quality looks, and we've seen that over this 4-game stretch.
Yeah, I think a 7 is about right. It's probably hovering at a 5 or a 6, but the past 2 weeks have really ratcheted that up a little. All right, so second big thing here, Cream. We didn't talk about some of the prior games, but just some quick takeaways. Steph Curry drops a near 50 burger on you. And
tough.
What jumps out to me from that game is, Cream, the third possession into the game, Joel is triple teamed. The opposing coach, the opposing team has a philosophy that says, we're not going to let this guy beat us. In the fourth quarter, with a 1-point game, they are not triple teaming Steph Curry to get it out of his hands.
Right.
And more so than that, earlier in that game, again a 1-point game, late in the third quarter, Joel is the only person that apparently can score the basketball, according to these Sixers sometimes, because the degree to which the other 4 players on the court did not even sniff or consider going within the socially distanced allotted 6 feet to the basket, to not try to create their own shot, but to force it to Joel regardless. Yeah. I get that he
already double teamed. They're forcing that entry pass, and it's really frustrating to watch these games sometimes. You're right. Keep going.
That was just and that's obviously it's a coaching thing and
Yes.
just saying there's got to be another read. And the quick movement, we saw it a little bit. While their defensive rotations have been quicker than in years past, the offensive whip of the ball to find the open shooter, which they do have a couple of now, has not been there.
Right.
And then other than that, moving off from that, just last game against the Bucks, it's a 1-point game a 4-point game in the second quarter. They're still in it. Okay.
Right.
Danny Green is backpedaling with Giannis heading full steam at him. He drives him to the middle where there is zero help. And after Giannis gets the and one, Danny, you could see him chuckling. Like, you could see him laughing like, guys, like, that is fundamental. Like, I need help. Help me. That is what he was asking for. It's these types of basketball team schematic, just knowing what you're going to do, even without your star players there. That's got to be on those guys to just be better. More basketball IQ personified there. So what I would say is that directs to the second concern, which is, I guess, the degree to which you're relying on Tobias Harris, Mr. all reliable, albeit objectively overpaid Harris, whose durability and consistency has really been his value calling card to this team this season especially. And now he has a nagging knee going into the most consequential playoff run of many Sixers careers. Many Sixers careers. Many people think of the guys at the top. How about guys like Danny Green and Dwight Howard, who could go back-to-back with the Lakers and with the Sixers, who have been key cogs this year? I mean, there's a lot at stake for everybody, and Tobias' lingering knee and having, you are relying on him so much. And maybe in these games, if you're missing Ben or if you're missing Joel, Tobias is a guy that knows you're going to have to help build the wall against Giannis. Tobias is the guy that knows, all right, I'm going to leave my guy because I'm not going to let Steph Curry beat us, or I'm going to look for my own shot because Joel is getting triple teamed. He emerged to me more this past stretch than I've really learned to appreciate him, along with Ben Simmons to a lesser degree.
Well, sure, and when you're missing those guys, their absences against these good teams, and we're not taking away anything from these guys from the teams that we played. We were shorthanded, but they outplayed us every single game. There was not a single game where I really felt like we were cheated. And those absences get magnified. And I think you're right to highlight the dealing with Giannis, because I really I feel strongly that was a pretty big miscalculation. Not sending more help quicker, faster, not being more aggressive with that. As we've seen teams do in the past. And transition defense in general has been a massive problem for this team all year. Really the one, link in the armor that of that elite defense. That's been the one problem area. And the Bucks just completely ran roughshod over them over the two games. I know they were pretty severely shorthanded both games. But like that cannot happen in a series. Against the Bucks, that you have to be able to stop them from getting easy buckets in transition. Giannis, you have to stop him from getting downhill. And it seemed like any time the Sixers were trying to build momentum, Giannis was there to just like burst through a very feeble defense, to the basket, get the N1, screaming dunk, momentum's gone. Like that just seemed like clockwork that happened the last two games. And that's something that I don't know like how much blame gets like personnel or coaching or like just like, regular season defense kind of is lapses in concentration. I don't know that. I don't know what the issue is, but it's something that has to get fixed. And while we're on the subject of coaching, I do want to talk about Doc and this and the mismanagement of his players. And it's not all on Doc, obviously. Like there are a lot of factors that go into who plays and who doesn't play. I thought it was a pretty easy decision to rest Joel Embiid, either the Suns game or the Bucks game. You didn't have Ben Simmons or Tobias. Why did he play that Suns game? Why did he play that, when everybody was out? Why did he play that first Bucks game on a back-to-back after you saw how how much energy he was exerting in this stretch, right? Like even in the wins against Brooklyn and the Clippers, like you saw how tough it was for him to get offense going. Why did he play all week? And then you have the disastrous thing of like, oh well, he tweaks his shoulder in the Bucks game and he misses the second one. When you would have had a little bit more reinforcements. What is your take on that, and why? Like, is it just like bad luck, or was that something a little bit more? Because it seems to happen every time where they just don't make the easy call, and it, 99 times out of 100, it ends up biting them. And this time, it absolutely did. What'd you think about that?
Yeah, this definitely goes under one of these major concerns of the end of season playing time plan.
Yes.
And the management. I gotta say I'm a little out on engaging in the discourse surrounding like Joel's planned sits versus playing like he has such sway over that, especially with the extenuating circumstances of still hypothetically being very much or a little bit or not
essentially
at all
in the MVP discussion. Yeah.
Whatever you want to say about that. I think we've made our demands about what we think should be right. But
right.
I think that guys like Tobias, even guys like, at the end of their rotation, maybe that need a little bit. You see Furkan getting the night off because he was a little sore. Joel should have been sat during, games earlier in the season. Maybe Ben Simmons, he's dealing with something now, but earlier in the season, you could have gotten him his rest, as you saw with other teams.
And we've seen the toll it takes on Tobias Harris. He's been asked to do a lot this season, play, mostly game in and game out. And we see, and it's not just the Sixers. I'll let you get back, but just we've seen league wide. This season has been a gauntlet, and it's taking its toll on the players. And I just can't help but feel the teams that are going to be successful in the playoffs are the teams planning for rest days and health and optimizing their players at the most important times, not on a Thursday night, against Milwaukee in the regular season. Those are not when you're already down 2 starters.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is the 2 losses to the Bucks are significant because while you have the tiebreaker over the Nets, this Bucks team, this fucking overachieving teacher's pet regular season Bucks team, is going to churn out more victories than they should this last 2.5 weeks. So my thing is the record of the teams that we have moving forward is, very much should be something that we take care of business without one of the guys. If Ben is out another night, if Joel has another sitting night, but you have Tobias back, they should be able to take care of business. The problem is the margin of error has all but disappeared.
Yes.
And that's the cost of doing business in these games. You were in the Suns game before Javon Carter hit 3 corner threes in the same spot. You were in the Warriors game until you, as a team, decided that you were going to allow the team's other best player who was having a career night to beat you. You made a decision to allow that, to not get the ball out of his hands. That's not what those good teams do, and they were in those games. So that's
they were,
and
that's what makes it frustrating is that you're not optimizing the performances, right? Like, the Suns and even the first Bucks game to an extent, they were relatively close games, and the Warriors game as well. Like, those were tough games, and you had to put a lot of energy into those games, and you ended up not getting anything out of them, and it cost you the final Bucks game because you weren't able to rest anybody, right? Like, that's what's frustrating, that you're kind of wasting these performances from Embiid. And the blame is we can spread it out a little bit. Obviously, Joel is very committed to playing as many games as he possibly can this year because he wants desperately to win that MVP. I don't blame him. I mean, MVP is an amazing achievement, and you really don't have, players like Harden and Giannis make it look easy, like you can win MVP any given year, but it's really tough. You really have to have a certain amount of factors go into it, and I understand why Embiid is like, this is my best shot. I got to try to take it, but we have a bigger goal in mind, right? We need to be able to compete deep into the playoffs this year to validate some of the success this team has had. And right now, that's not like the health of the team is not great, and you just had a 4-game, sweep basically. So nothing about this week has gone right. But you alluded to the good news on the way. Really easy schedule coming up. The last 12 games, and we'll break down the standings in a second. But you have 12 games remaining. By my count, 5 of those games are against teams actively trying to lose. You have the Thunder, you have the Rockets, you have the Pistons, and you have 2 games at the end of the year against the Magic. Those are games you should be able to win easily without multiple starters. You can rest Danny Green and Embiid. There's no way Embiid should play on Monday against the Thunder. I don't think if you could field as few rotation players as possible against the Thunder on Monday would be my suggestion, because that is not a team like that is not a team trying to win. And you need to take advantage of that.
That Monday game's a classic Ben and the Simonettes, and just have Ben come back and just run it with the B squad. But I totally agree that that's within reach. And Cream, let me just leave you on this, as maybe we can move off Sixers in just a moment here. This Sixers team as a unit, I'm looking at. I need to see George Hill and Ben Simmons play together.
Yeah,
and
it's important.
I think in the playoffs, you've got George Hill, Ben Simmons likely playing together at some point. You've got Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. You have some tools in your toolbox in Seth Curry or Matisse that you throw out matchup dependent. Obviously,
and Danny,
that's what I was going to ask then. Who is the 5th guy that you are playing with George Hill, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Joel in most games without it having to be situational, because those guys can all hold their own? Who is that 5th guy you're putting in there?
I think it's pretty easily right now Danny Green, because of how well he's played the last month. He's shooting the ball extremely well. He has the experience. He has the ability to defend multiple positions. He's not the defender he once was, and he's not nearly the defender that Matisse is right now. But still savvy, and he offers you a little bit of everything else. I think it is clearly Danny Green right now, and we'll see. And with Seth and George Hill, battling it out a little bit for that 5th spot, because Danny's been phenomenal. These above the break threes, transition threes. I feel like he hasn't missed one all year.
That horrendous air ball yesterday, though.
Oh yeah. But like
the
way he shot
air balls during yesterday's game. Sorry, it was terrible.
The way he's been shooting yesterday, notwithstanding, I think it makes it pretty clear that he's the guy.
Yep.
And we'll see. I am excited to see George Hill and
Ben Simmons.
And Ben Simmons together. That's got to be a paramount pairing that we need to see as many times as possible over the next 12 games. And just briefly, we'll just do a little bit of record watch. We are now 1 game back from the Nets, and we are 1.5 or 1 game in the loss column behind the Nets, and 1 game in the loss column above the Bucks. So it's going to be a very tight finish. The Bucks and the Nets, of course, have a 2-game series against each other. If those 2 teams split, I feel pretty good about the Sixers' chances. If they split those 2 games, the Sixers have a super cakewalk schedule. They can easily go 10-2. If they go 10-2, there's no way Milwaukee catches them. There's just no way.
All right, that's a lot of confidence. I tend to
Milwaukee would have to go 11-1 against a slightly harder schedule. That includes 2 games against the Nets. I just don't see it. And the Nets, of course, they don't care about the 1 seed. We've seen that. We know that.
We're the only one that cares.
We are the only. Well, the Bucks care. The Bucks care too. But it's not like they don't care as much as us, because they've been the 1 seed the last 2 years and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
We are the ones who care the most. We have
it does matter.
Cakewalk schedule. Go 11-1. Go 12-0. Like, let's lock up this thing. That's my plea to the Sixers. Rest on the nights you can rest, and then the nights you feel like you have to play the whole squad and destroy teams. That's my
good
play.
Strategy.
That's my strategy.
Great insight.
Yes.
Last thing, and I'm ready to move off. Cream, let's chill out with the technicals, man. Let's
my God.
Doc,
how many?
Whoever the fuck, just chill the fuck out. Just turn the other way and say, literally turn your body from the ref and then say, fucking asshole, stupid mother. Like, just do whatever you got to do, but stop doing it so it's easy enough for them to be like, you know what? You just said that to my face. That's a tech, man.
Texts.
You just said something really mean to me. I got to give you a technical. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable. Like.
Dwight's getting targeted, but like the rest of them need to chill out.
Of course. But he should know that. Of course. Have the ability to like recognize that and just stop getting text. You're absolutely right. That is the major key for the playoffs. We can't just be doing this into the playoffs. We can't.
Mentally strong. Mentally strong. We gotta be.
Absolutely. All
right.
Yeah. Do you want to move
Anything
off?
Sixers?
Do a little bit of draft talk?
I am all in on getting to some NFL draft talk, boy.
Yes. What? Okay. Obviously, the draft has snuck up on us a little bit. It is in a couple days.
We're missing our head honcho.
We are missing our head honcho.
Like draft director.
He loves it. It's a shame he can't be here with us. But we are more than capable of handling ourselves, and this is an exciting draft. Not only because it's got some decent star power at the top, but the Eagles, man, they got the 12th pick. There seems to be among Eagles fans a trio of guys that we're kind of circling in on. Do you want to take us through those?
Sure. And being at 12 is totally different and something we disagreed with. And then after consuming a lot of NFL draft content this past week, I'll say, like, because of all the interrupted scheduling and like players opting out and all that, the 2022 picks are going to be very desired, and possibly having 3 is tantalizing for the future. So I might have to walk that back a little. I was pretty mad about it, but because it will be such a better opportunity to actually get real players next year, Howie has more opportunities to screw up if he's still here. So I'll say that. At 12, there's been a lot of conversations about the Alabama players. 2 wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, who is shorter than Devontae Smith, just for the record, and Devontae Smith, along with the cornerback, Patrick Surtain. In looking at the mock drafts, obviously you're waiting to see what's going to happen with quarterback movement. You're looking at Denver, at the back end, Carolina. If there are quarterbacks there and there are no trades, if Atlanta does not take a quarterback, and now there's a couple sitting there, at the end of the top 10, and what that looks like in terms of being a more reasonable trade-up for teams like New England, I think it's very likely that both of those wide receivers are gone and that Surtain could go right in front of you to a division rival.
Which would be tough.
I'm looking at the positions. Micah Parsons is somebody that maybe sneaks up. I think he's going to fall. I think he's going past us, past 12, and going in the middle of the first round. But a player like that at a position that maybe the Cowboys or the Giants would want to take. But I think it's pretty clear that they would go cornerback if you're the Cowboys and wide receiver if you're the Giants, if one of those guys is there.
Yeah.
The question seems to have come down to, do you have enough confidence? And I'll just throw out the name, which I think is J.C. Horn. Do you have enough confidence in taking that player at that position at that place in the draft as opposed to trading back because there are 4 or 5 guys that you might be able to pluck, whether it's, one side of the offensive line or defensive line or a linebacker that you like, that you don't feel comfortable taking that high at 12. I think if those 3 Bama guys are gone, which I'm like 75% sure, man. I think explosive wide receivers and cornerbacks are just so valuable.
It's a weird. I really don't know how it's going to go, how the back end of that top 10 is going to go, but it's definitely a possibility.
What do you want to do if those guys are gone is the first question. What would be your preferred option?
I like, some of these other. I would like to see who is falling in place of those guys. If a guy like Rashawn Slater is available, I'm pretty adamant I'm rushing to the board. I'm taking him, just a guy you can plug pretty much anywhere on your offensive line and just like feel good about that for the next decade. Those guys usually you feel pretty good about taking them. So that's where I'm at. I want to see if these guys are, if teams are reaching on the Bama guys, I want to see who's falling. I think there's still value there at 12, even with, the Bama guys. I think there's still enough talent in this draft that, you're only trading back if a good, deal presents itself. I don't want this, this fake trade back 7 picks because you didn't have anybody. What was the dude we took? Chip Kelly took Marcus Smith, the Marcus Smith trade back. Like
Come on.
That's what happened, man. They didn't have anybody to take, and they were like, "All right, we'll trade back 7 picks, I guess, and then just take whatever." I don't want to. I think there's talent going to be there on the board at 12. You need the best. You need to nail this 12th pick, Jake. Like that is 100% paramount. It doesn't matter if you don't nail this 12. Like I don't care how many picks you have next year. I don't care if you were able to add a second or something. Like you have to nail this pick. I'm good with I'm good with any of the Alabama guys. Or J.C. Horn. I like him too. Those and Rashawn Taylor. One of those guys is going to be there. I'm going to take one of those guys. I'm not getting cute with the trade backs, and get cute in the later rounds. Get cute when you have a normal offseason and not a super weird team moving forward. I just need a little bit of stability in my life, and that involves the Eagles just taking BPA at 12.
I think that's fine. I think that's sound. I think that sounds okay. But again, if you're deciding, let's say let me ask you this first, and then I'll go on my point. Would you rather have J.C. Horn or Devontae Smith at 12? They're both there.
I'll take Smith, I guess. But I'm good with either.
Okay, and I agree with you that I'm not trading back in this scenario where you trade back, you pick up a day 2 pick, and then you gamble on a guy like Caleb Farley, who has the potential to be like a number 1 corner, but he's got his back procedure and all this, who could be legit number 1 corner. That is not what I'm interested in. If I'm doing that, I'm moving back 3 or 4 spots, and I'm still picking up a starter, maybe go linebacker there. I know everybody thinks I'm crazy, but or Horn. I mean, if you move back to, let's say, 15, if there's a quarterback there with New England, or even like 16, I still think that's very possible. You really got to be sold on Slater then. That's pretty... I mean, for what this team needs, I
versatile,
guess. You can pick
versatile
that up later
offensive
in the draft, though. No,
I mean, starting level ability at multiple positions on the offensive line. Day 1, he's got all the physical traits. He's got all the the footwork, the technique. He's got all of it. I feel like that's a no-brainer. I feel like that's just a no-brainer pick. If he's available, you can just fill any spot on that offensive line. An offensive line, we don't like to talk about it, is getting very old. Is getting very old and very broken, and hasn't been the same since that 2017 year. That seriously needs some retooling. I know, we got some Mailata, and we don't know exactly what we have with a lot of our guys. We're in a bit of a wait and see with Brooks comes back. What does it look like? How long can Kelsey keep going? But it just seems like that's a plug and guy that I feel comfortable with at 12. I'm totally good with it. I'm pretty sold on that. Yeah, I'm pretty sold on him being just a guy you can plug into your line.
Okay. Yeah, I've made my bones about the importance of those lines, and as you mentioned, the aging and the injuries. What I would say is they've had some success with those later round lineman picks, and with a guy like Jeff Stoutland there, who's just gonna and those veteran guys who in 1 year could teach that mid-round guy enough inside tricks and knowledge that maybe he accelerates a little faster, not to the degree that Slater would ever become, but serviceable. Closing out, if you're sitting there at 12 and you have J.C. Horn, Devontae Smith, and Slater, what 3 completely different needs to choose to shore up with that pick. It's going to be a lot of fun for that reason. There will be multiple guys, I think. I do think quarterbacks are going to – I see Fields going forward to San Fran, and then I see Mac Jones slipping. I see Lance going maybe Chicago. And then you've got New England maybe sitting there looking to try to trade up. I think they want their quarterback. They just spent all their money. So I think there's going to be a decent amount of movement, and I just hope the Birds don't flub it up. I think either Horn, Devontae, or Slater. Give me one of those three, and let's get out of that first round.
Yeah, I feel good about that. Now, so who's your number one guy? Who of all the people we've listed, if they're available, you're taking? Or do you not have one? Do you have just like those guys are all pretty
I was just going to say, I am not sold on any of them as I have been in years past. Right?
Like on one singular guy?
Yeah, or just the position, because either wide receiver or corner, I'm kind of like, that makes wide receivers just at this point, it's so embarrassing. I almost just want to fucking take Devontae and be like, we get it. He's small. He's going to be really fucking good, and he knows how to not take the big hits and stuff. Whatever. I almost want to go that way, but I'm going to go with the option you gave me, which is you give me one of those three guys. I'm going to talk myself into it. This team needs a lot of stuff.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you have any targets, like second round, anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because the day 2 and day 3 strategy changes, I think, pretty drastically depending on where you go with that first pick. If you take a corner at 12, then I am scouring the second-tier wide receiver class.
Wide receiver becomes pretty... I think you have to take one in the first 2 rounds. Do you agree?
Yeah. I'd
to an
say
extent,
that.
You agree?
Because I also think that the track record of second-round wide receivers is actually pretty damn strong. So, in that previous history of selecting the position at that time, I actually think that, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I think a guy like Terrence Marshall is probably going to go back end of the first. I don't know if he slips to the second. I've got a lot of guys, a lot of wide receivers that I've identified just because of certain physical traits that they would bring, but they would be reaches on day 2. Do you have a day 2 wide receiver that you're longing after?
I mean, I think Terrence Marshall is probably the ideal guy. You have that early second round pick. I would say him and a guy like Rondell Moore, who seems just like a freak athlete. He's got
pretty small, right?
He's got some size issues, but he's a little more compact. He's more like Darren Sproles in the way that, like, if you hit him, he's not going to break, right? He's just going to bounce off you. I feel like that is definitely, him. He's not quite the freak athlete that Devonta Smith is. They're most people aren't, right? Like there aren't many people like him, but he's kind of like of a second tier level athlete, and he's got all the traits that I think you would want in a guy like that. So he would probably be a slot guy, but he seems like somebody who could immediately come in and just rack up catches. We haven't had a good slot receiver. I don't know how long it's been. I'm sorry to the Greg Ward fans out there.
That's me. I'm a Greg Ward fan. You're coming at me right now. Some bullshit.
I like the guys in the second round. These receivers, Elijah Moore,
Elijah Moore intrigues me.
I like these guys.
Because of the game breaker possibility.
Yeah, that's so. I'm pretty comfortable not going receiver in the first because you got that early second round pick, man, and I think these guys are going to be one of these guys is going to be available. So I'm good with that. I think Terrence Marshall. I would say going corner 1, Patrick Surtain at 1, and then getting him in the second round, Marshall, that would be, I think, an outcome pretty much every Eagles fan would love. That seems to be a pretty consensus take.
I think, to build off of that, an ideal scenario, you go wide receiver corner or corner wide receiver, and that's J.C. Horn and Terrence Marshall, or if that is, somehow Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn in the first, and then Obviously, you take that other wide receiver. But if you take Devontae Smith with your 12th pick, then maybe get like Asante Samuel Jr. in the second. So I think a combination of those two positions would appease a lot of Eagles fans who are feeling a little tense when it comes to this draft.
Yeah.
But what I would say, though, is some of the guys that I was looking at are more third, fourth round. I know in the past our shout-out Quez Watkins and who else went with him in the sixth? I can't remember. John Hightower.
Yeah, John Hightower.
And just like taking him in the sixth is different than taking him like in the third, in my opinion.
Right.
Like those guys have one skill, they're fast or whatever. But you take guys in the third or the fourth, they have a real chance. And the reason I say that is because do you know what's a little deep this year, Cream, that could go in the second round?
What's that?
A linebacker.
Oh, wow.
A linebacker.
Wow.
There's a bunch. There's this guy, Javon Davis from Kentucky. There's the guy I really want, Jabril Cox from LSU, an LSU linebacker. Fucking sign me up. I'm the guy who wanted Patrick Queen. So, dude, it would be kind of nuts if they went like corner or linebacker and just went both defensive side of the ball. But
Right.
not out of the realm of possibility, especially if they're saying, this dude, we can't just pass on him because we need the wide receiver. Terrence Marshall's gone. And here are some names I'm going to throw out at you for rounds 3, round 4. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Nico Collins, 6'4", from Michigan.
Yeah.
Body catcher, chain mover, 50-50, red zone threat. A guy with size and speed. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to sell you too much harder on it.
No, I feel you. Like, in these mid-rounds, you're really looking just for guys to fill roles. And that seems like something that he could come in and really do well at, just as the chain mover, like Jordan Matthews-esque guy. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, but 6'4", that's what I'm interested. I would like to get a bigger guy with some speed on this team just to see what could happen. And a crazy stat.
Shout out to Matt Collins.
Shout out to Matt Collins, bro. And even though we can't really take much from last year, according to Pro Football Focus, 46% of Jalen Hurts' throws while in his 4 games last year were down the field. He was trying to take shots. It wasn't the appropriate setting nor the personnel to do so. But that intrigues me. I'll just throw out a couple other guys. You talk about wanting to take maybe that offensive lineman right away because of what he could do. A guy like Drake Jackson in the later rounds intrigues me. 6'2" center from Kentucky, 4-year starter, a guy that just comes right in and gets amazingly coached up and is surrounded by awesome guys. Maybe he can give you, a relative comparison in terms of what you're going to get with Slater with just a reliable guy. Because those linemen, they don't have the counting stats. If they're not letting their guy get to the quarterback, then they're doing a great fucking job.
True.
So, and they've had success with some of those later offensive lineman picks, not so much with the wide receivers.
No, not at all. You're absolutely right. Just in terms of positions that we feel it's important for the Eagles to address. Where do you rank? Obviously, I think wide receiver and cornerback are pretty paramount needs. Offensive lineman is always kind of a position you want to keep that pipeline pretty fill, right? You want to keep taking offensive linemen because you never want to be in a scenario where it's empty, right? Where the pipeline is just dried up. Another sneaky position that not a lot of people are talking about, tight end. We don't know what's going to happen with Zach Ertz, but he's probably not going to be on the team next year. You have Goddard, who's been great, but tight end would be. I don't know what Saraceni's offense is going to look like if he favors the 12 personnel, the 2 tight end look like Doug did. But I would say tight end is if you're going to move off of Zach Ertz, getting in another tight end would be pretty important. Any other positions that really jump out to you?
Yeah, I do have one. But Cream, one of my guys, Tony Poljan, 6'7" tight end from Virginia. 6 touchdowns last year. Good blocker. The thing is, he's a little lumbering. He's not very athletic. Excellent hands. This guy's a late round, 5th round, 6th round pick. But the thing is, Cream, they do have some tight ends like on their practice squad, at least guys that know the system a little bit, or I guess the previous system. So maybe it's not as valid. You get the feeling that if Ertz is gone, Goddard as a 1A, can rely on him, and then you get a second tight end there, mainly in for blocking anyway, like your Richard Rodgers. That doesn't strike me as as something you're looking for in the first 2 days.
Really. No, probably not.
So the other position, I think if you don't go J.C. Horn, if you go wide receiver in the first, there are some cornerbacks that intrigue me. I would like to see it taken earlier than usual. I was so excited for Sidney Jones, man. I was like, such a good pick. Like finally, like all, everything on paper. I was like, okay, I get the injury stuff. He'll have plenty of time. He doesn't have to get rushed. What a great value pick. That's really kind of scarred me. A guy like Trill Williams from Syracuse, 6'2", just good size and just overall good tape, multiple-year starter. This year where the football was so interrupted, it's going to be so hard to make these determinations. But
yeah, the late round guys who you just didn't see a ton of, that's absolutely going to.
You just want as many darts as possible to throw at that board, and the Eagles have them at least in the 6th and 7th, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think? Like a late round, a running back? Would that interest you at all, or no?
I mean, do you know these late picks? They've had some success in the undrafted free agent market with the running backs lately. I wonder if Howie, would just go that route. He's had some success with that. That seems to be where they're thinking. I don't know, but linebacker obviously could use a shot in the arm. The defensive line, which has been good the last few years, has struggled to maintain that top echelon that we saw when the team was really good. Some disappointing free agent signings, definitely. I wonder if it doesn't seem to be a very good defensive line draft. I wonder if next year that would be the year to target with all those first round picks to try to get like an elite pass rusher. It doesn't seem to be. It's not something that Howie's had a ton of success at either recently in the mid-round picks. So that's a position that I'm concerned about, but doesn't seem like the Eagles are going to pour a lot of draft capital into it, along with the linebacker position.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said, which is like an edge rusher or like a defensive tackle. That's exactly the type of pick that like Howie desperately wants to make, and like maybe even the guy he would take would be good, but that everybody else is like, no, Howie, we're not taking that position with all the other needs on this team.
Yes.
That's one that you can mess around if you're still here next year. You can play around with those 3 first, most likely first. I mean, that is where you get whoever you want from there. Let Derek Barnett play out the $10 million a year. Let's see what you got with Josh Sweat. You have enough. You hopefully, Brandon Graham had a really good year last year. Who knows? So that is not where I'm thinking, but I am concerned that like if a guy like Gregory Rousseau or someone falls that Howie has his eye on, that he's going to be like, we got to get this guy. It's not as deep of a class. Like this is where you take him at 37 or whatever, or maybe trade up a couple spots to go get him. But I'm a little concerned with that. But definitely linebacker. Dylan Moses from Alabama, would love him in like the 4th or 5th. So I've thrown a couple names at you here. I feel a little anxious. I do think there's a 40% chance they trade back if those Bama guys are not there. I think they're just saying we're not ready this year, and 2022 picks have so much value because of the amount of scouting that we'll be able to get done. So little nervous, but obviously very, very excited, and I think it's pretty guaranteed we're going either cornerback or wide receiver.
That would, any other position would definitely be a shock to the fan base. If it's a guy like Micah Parsons, that would be really surprising to me. Not that would be like a bad pick, just doesn't really fit with what the Eagles have done or really are looking to do in this draft, which is just kind of get building blocks for the future, for the next iteration of the great Eagles team, right? Like we're not really we're just in an asset accumulation spot. Not that the Eagles are gonna not that this season is like a lost year, but that's not the focus right now. It's just really evaluating, see what you have on the roster. I feel good about that. It'll be a fun week leading up. I think the top of the draft is definitely going to be a little crazy. I really evidently San Francisco knows who they're going to draft at 3. I'm excited for that. I kind of want them to take Mac Jones just because of the ridiculousness of it all, like trading 3 first-round picks for Mac Jones, and just like people calling Kyle Shanahan a genius, and then he just does that, is really like just entertaining to me. And we just have to have this conversation about Mac Jones. Is really funny. What do you think that they'll do there? How do you think the top 5 is going to shake out?
Yeah, I think no surprise with the top 2, and then
Yeah,
I'm gonna zag. I'll say it's Justin Fields at 3 to San Fran, and then I'll go Pitts to Atlanta at 4, and then I'm gonna go Jamar Chase at 5 because I think they want to just make Joe as happy as possible, Joe Burrow, and give him his buddy Jamar, and it's like, all right, we'll get offensive linemen soon, but we'll be better at making sure you don't take as many big hits. And then of course it's Miami's turn, and Miami might be looking to trade back with quarterback still on the board, albeit
with Pitts and Chase off the board. I think they were definitely would have felt good about that. Yeah,
Sewell or whatever from Oregon, they could take him because that's just something you don't have to worry about then moving forward with whoever your quarterback's going to end up being because they've got a pretty good team. Or you trade back a couple spots, whether it's Carolina or whether it's Chicago, because they really like either Mac Jones or Trey Lance. So a lot of quarterback activity, I think, and the back end of the top 10 is going to be really intense. I think so. Last year as well, the divisional opponents were like right around us. It seemed like where we were picking, and this year to go back to back to back NFC East.
It's really funny. Yeah,
that's going to be tough. That's going to be like whoever they take. It's like when the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb, it was just like so crushing.
Yeah,
so close.
And when they take Surtain, right? Like that's
right. Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
It's happening. So I'm preparing myself for that for sure.
Okay.
You got any other draft takes that you got to get off your chest here?
I mean, like, I don't want to live in a world where Mac Jones goes above Justin Fields because that feels ridiculous. But I think he's going to go 3. I don't know why, but I think he's just going to go 3, and we're just going to be and the Patriots are going to take Justin Fields. They're going to trade up and take Justin Fields, and we're just going to like in a year we're just going to be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing? How did we let this happen again? Like, that's what I'm prepared for mentally. Just that kind of mental strain. Yeah, exactly. And of course, like Surtain and Waddle going off the board at 10 and 11. That's what I'm prepared for.
Yeah. So better to go into it with eyes wide open.
Yes. All right. Well, we've reached the part of the podcast where we really only have a few things left. One of them being the very important Daryl Morey tweet of the week. It's been a fan favorite. A lot of buzz out there in the streets for it. Daryl Morey came in so hot with the Twitter that we had to dedicate an entire freaking segment to him. So here it is. I have the Daryl Morey tweet of the week, and it is a photo of Matisse Thybulle, who we didn't talk about much this episode, blocking Luke Kennard's 3, and Daryl Morey with the wow emoji. It's just simple. It's just, I love it. It's a great picture. And it's the second most impressive block 3 for Matisse Thybulle. Like, that's how insane Matisse Thybulle has been playing. His defense, he was always like super erratic, and like you could tell, like sometimes he was gonna get the big block, and sometimes he was gonna get caught. I feel like he's really found a good balance these last couple weeks. Defensively, like when to push it, when to sag, when to go behind the bat, like when to chase. I really feel like he's kind of figuring it out, and that's really exciting to me. Obviously, offensively, he leaves, a ton to be desired, but I feel no worries about playing him in the playoffs now because I'm certain he's not going to get just like these ticky-tacky fouls called on him. He's got the respect of the refs, I feel like, to an extent. I mean, I'm using the Daryl Morey tweet of the week segment just to praise Matisse Thybulle a little bit.
I think that's fine. I got to say 2 things. One, I'll use this word. I used it last week. Shameless. Shameless is Daryl Morey.
Yes.
Who tweets about the man who was halfway out his door
twice. 2 times.
I will continue to say this, but also, Cream, shameless.
And you know what, Jake? You're the kind of guy, when we have Daryl Morey on, you'll say it to his face. You'll say it to his face on the Zoom call. Daryl Morey, you're shameless.
I'm not gonna fuck around and ask stupid questions about NFTs. I'm gonna get right to the business. So, and also, who's shameless? You know who else is shameless? Again,
who's that?
Tillman Fertitta. Because he could have had
Matisse
Thybulle and Ben Simmons and picks. And he just was shameless in saying, I'm not doing business with him. He's got fucking nothing. He's got a pick swap this year that he had put in the deal. This year, he thought the swap was necessary because he's like, I got to get as much swaps, as many picks as possible.
Oh, my God.
Didn't think,
disaster
there is
franchise.
0.00 chance that swap would ever convert.
It's a disaster franchise.
Just stuff like that. The second thing actually on Matisse is this. You can see a conscious effort by him attempting to get himself into the flow of a serviceable offense earlier in the game, taking those shots.
There's definitely effort there.
Dribbling out of maybe that three-pointer if there's someone coming to swat it, and even take that mid-range shot or drive to the hoop. You can see there's a more conscious, deliberate effort. But what I would say is...
He's less erratic on the offensive end, to be sure.
He's hit a couple more threes, but the thing that is just so surprising is he had to get better on that side of the ball. But what he has gotten even better at is the defense, which was already the thing that was his calling card.
He's gotten better. It's absolutely right. He's gotten even better.
So, you would think, and the logic was if he can improve incrementally on the other side, then he kind of has to be a part of the team and playoff rotation. Because he has gotten better on the other side, on the defensive, which you didn't think was possible, it kind of still has the same logic. You're like, it might not have been offense, but he's gotten even better on the other side. He has to be playing because he's getting extra possessions and is such a difference maker. So it's really wild. He's a big factor.
He's averaging like 0.75 steals that lead to transition dunks, like a game. He's like
remarkable.
He's got like 3 every 4 games. He's got a cookie situation where he's just gliding down to the other end by himself for a monster dunk. I'm ready for that in the fourth quarter of a Bucks game in the playoffs. Like, strap in, man. I'm ready for that. Like, that's the stuff that gets me juiced. I'm waiting for it. I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
it's almost here, man. We only have 12 games left.
I know.
The playoffs are almost here.
It's kind of crazy.
The funny thing is, we really, I feel like the last couple of years, we've really known who our opponent was going to be. Or maybe not last year because of the bubble, but like a couple years ago, we really knew it was going to be the Nets, right? Like, in the first round. Man, we're not going to know who our opponent is. Like, maybe the last day is the earliest we'll know. The last day of the season is the earliest we'll know. And that's if we fall all the way to 3. If not, like, we're going to have to wait for these play-in games. Could be Miami, could be Charlotte, could be Washington. Like, we really don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I really hope it's not Miami.
All right. You save that. And we got the NFL draft to get us through this week, and then it is full steam ahead. Yes. Summer NBA coming at you hot.
Hot and heavy. Love it.
So, Creamy, we have gone through a little bit today, and the Daryl Morey tweet of the week, just an absolute star-studded segment there. Do you got anything else you got to get off your chest here tonight?
I think it's crazy that European soccer almost melted down, and then the proposed Super League fell apart so soon that we didn't even have a chance to comment on it. It happened the rise and fall of the European Super League. I mean, documentaries, I cannot wait for those. 48 hours it lasted. We did not even get it. It's old news now by the time we got back. I know we're a little erratic with our scheduling, but we're not that erratic. Like, it's old news. Like, it's this thing that, like, it's not even worth doing a segment about because it's so last week's news. Like I can't believe it. I thought there was a time like where we were gonna dedicate the top of the show to it, and now it's like, oh, it was absolutely gonna happen.
Fake news.
Jake, it was absolutely gonna happen. Now though, like it's this thing at the end. Like it's not even worth mentioning. Like doing a whole segment about it. That's just how quickly sports and like these decisions about like the business level is happening in these sports right now. How quickly it's a fascinating time with all the money that's being thrown around. It's really interesting.
I really got to say, it fits me really well. It was really good looking out for me, who really had no understanding, or the degree to which it was something that should be learned about. Like I kind of just I was able to coast through, so it really worked out well for me.
Good for you, man. Okay, I think I'm good then.
Cream, just last thing here, man. I want to put my stake in the ground. The tenure of Nick Sirianni has been pretty rough.
Yes.
And I just want to put my stake in the ground and say I want to zag while everybody is zigging on coming down on Mr. Sirianni. I want to brush it off for just a moment and say, listen, Doug came across Mr. Dougie P, legendary Doug Peterson. He came across like pretty corny, kind of soft, and like he played the game as a quarterback, so it was fine.
We really wanted him out after 1 year. Like there were legitimate calls for him to get fired after year one.
Very vanilla, and I would just say with Sirianni, like after the reports of what's going on with this Eagles organization, this dude is gonna have my patience, and we all know that this year is a different type of football season anyway, if you're really following things. So I just want to put my stake in the ground there.
Fair enough. I'm out. I've been out pretty much since the jump. I'm excited to see him prove me wrong, though. I'm going to obviously keep an open mind, but I'm coming at it from a you have to impress me thing, because I didn't like the hire. I didn't like the way it went down. The whole Wentz thing. I really didn't like it. Just rubbed me the wrong way. So we'll see. We'll see.
That's fine. We'll see. Let's just give him a chance. And honestly, I feel kind of good. I think this is going to be a good.
They're kind of going to be a dumpster fire either way. Like no matter what.
But this draft,
it does leave a little bit of like maybe there'll be a fun dumpster fire. Like that's a little excitement.
Sure, but I'm just excited to see if this could be a good draft. That maybe changes our like it really could have a tangible impact, this incoming class. And
we'll see.
Does Zach Ertz get moved? Final question. Does Zach Ertz get moved on draft night?
He gets moved for like
on draft
round.
night.
Yeah. I'll say on draft night.
Okay. Alrighty. I don't think so, but we'll see.
During the draft, not during the first round, but during the draft.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You want to get us out of here?
Let me take us out of here. Well, I just want to thank everybody sincerely for listening to today's pod. I hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.